The content discussed in this video includes consent, sexual harassment, sexual violence, and abuse. These topics are serious, sensitive, and can evoke strong emotional responses. Please view with care and self-compassion. This video covers characteristics of healthy and unhealthy relationships, boundaries and consent, healthy and safe interactions in person and online, sexual harassment, definitions and examples, and the impact of sexual harassment on individuals and communities. All relationships exist on a spectrum from healthy to abusive. Love is Respect, a project supported by the National Domestic Violence Hotline, describes healthy relationships as those based on respect, good communication, trust, honesty, and equality. Abusive relationships are described as those based on accusations, blame shifting, isolation, pressure, and manipulation. Between these two extremes, there is a spectrum of characteristics that may be present in any relationship at any time. You can learn more about the relationship spectrum, healthy relationships, dating, personal safety, supporting others, or how to get help if you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship at loveisrespect.org. No relationship or person is perfect. In every relationship, people will make mistakes. There will be conflict. It is likely that those in a relationship will feel hurt at times. These qualities of a healthy relationship will have to be cultivated and invested in over time by both partners. Even healthy relationships may struggle from time to time to uphold all of these characteristics, but knowing what a healthy relationship looks like and the signs of an unhealthy relationship can help you keep your relationship on track. One Love is an organization that states its mission is to empower young people with the tools and resources they need to see the signs of healthy and unhealthy relationships and bring life-saving prevention education to their communities. It has identified 10 signs that a relationship is healthy. These include a comfortable pace, honesty, respect, kindness, healthy conflict, trust, independence, equality, taking responsibility, and fun. When a relationship is mostly characterized by these traits, it helps both partners grow as individuals and for the relationship to positively impact their lives. Though no relationship will have all of these characteristics at all times, a healthy relationship can be described in these ways most of the time. One Love has also identified 10 signs that a relationship is unhealthy or even abusive. These include intensity, possessiveness, manipulation, isolation, sabotage, belittling, guilting, volatility, deflecting responsibility, and betrayal. Some of these characteristics can be difficult to identify, and sometimes even glorified in popular media. However, even sometimes romanticized qualities, like over-the-top feelings or jealousy, can be signs that a relationship isn't healthy for one or both partners. These warning signs can start small and can even feel flattering or validating. But as time progresses, these unhealthy relationship characteristics can become toxic, impacting the physical and mental health of those involved and making those involved vulnerable to even more harmful acts of harassment and assault. All healthy relationships are built on a foundation that honors each person's boundaries. Boundaries are the limits and rules we set for ourselves within relationships. Love is Respect provides information about how to set and evaluate boundaries in a relationship in 4 categories: emotional boundaries, physical boundaries, digital boundaries, and boundaries in conflict resolution. Therapist and author of the best-selling book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace, Nedra Glover Tawwab, suggests that there are 6 boundaries necessary to maintain in healthy relationships. No matter how you categorize them, all of these are important aspects to consider when establishing boundaries for yourself and for your relationships. Boundaries can be difficult to set and maintain. To set boundaries in relationships, you first have to set boundaries with yourself. According to Psychology Today, this process begins with knowing yourself and valuing your worth. To set boundaries within relationships, you have to develop a deep understanding of your own needs and desires, alongside a firm belief in your own worth. You have to be able to value yourself without comparing yourself to others, and to have reasonable, fair expectations for yourself. To set boundaries for yourself, start by considering in advance, pausing in the moment. Consider how you feel about an activity or invitation before accepting or declining. Decline activities that you don't want to do or that don't make you feel safe or respected. Only engage in activities that are aligned with your values. Notice how you feel in certain situations or in response to certain requests and express these feelings honestly. Anticipate the situations that you might encounter and what you might need to feel safe and respected in those situations. Express these needs with the people who will be in those situations with you. Boundaries can be healthy or unhealthy. According to Love is Respect, healthy boundaries help protect and respect you, and unhealthy boundaries seek to control or harm someone else. Some examples of healthy boundaries include: I am comfortable spending time together on the weekends, but not on both Saturday and Sunday. I am comfortable spending time together with our friends, but I also want to spend time with my friends on my own. I am comfortable with kissing and touching over my clothes, but not touching under my clothes. I am comfortable with oral sex, but only when we are not drunk or high. I am comfortable with having sex, but only when we use protection. Unhealthy boundaries include: I am comfortable with you spending time with friends, but only if they are the same gender as you. I'm comfortable with you having an Instagram account, but only if you share the password with me. I'm comfortable with having sex, but only if you promise not to tell anyone. Once a person has a strong sense of their boundaries, they must be communicated clearly and regularly to the people in their lives. This creates a foundation for consent. Consent is simply asking permission. However, seeking consent is not always simple. There are many definitions for consent. Love is Respect defines consent as an ongoing, mutual agreement between partners about what they want to experience. The Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAINN, defines consent as an ongoing process of discussing boundaries and what you're comfortable with. The National Sexual Violence Resource Center states that consent occurs when someone gives permission for something to happen or agrees to something. Planned Parenthood references the most commonly used acronym, FRIES, to describe the characteristics of consent, which is freely given. A person who feels intimidated, threatened, or coerced cannot give consent, nor can a person who is not sober. Reversible. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. A person can consent to an activity and then change their mind. Informed. Consent can only be given if someone understands what they are consenting to. Enthusiastic. Consent is a yes, not just an absence of a no. If a person is unsure or hesitant, they have not consented and should be allowed time and space to arrive at a decision that they are comfortable with and enthusiastic about. Specific. Consent cannot be asked for or given generally. but it is specific to each activity or experience. Consent must be asked for and given again and again. No person can be expected to read their partner's mind, no matter how much they love or respect them. All are responsible for seeking information about their partner's boundaries and asking for consent before engaging in any activity that involves physical or emotional intimacy. Asking for and offering consent is something that we do all day, every day. It is especially important during sexual situations because of the impacts when consent is not granted. However, we all demonstrate respect and care for the people in our lives by practicing consent daily. Everyday consent can be communicated both verbally and non-verbally and requires that we pay close attention to the signals we're getting from others. Some examples of daily practices with consent include asking for someone's permission before posting a picture of them, asking if someone prefers a hug or a fist bump when you're greeting them, asking when someone is open to sharing more when a personal topic comes up in conversation, noticing if someone stiffens or pulls away when you try to make physical contact with them, and noticing when someone appears uncomfortable when you make a joke or comment about them. Consent in sexual situations works similarly, though can feel more complicated or challenging. There are many cultural cues in songs, movies, TV, and on social media that suggest that asking for consent isn't sexy or romantic, or that it may even threaten someone's identity. However, sex of any kind without consent is harmful, unjust, and illegal. Just like all things, consent in sexual situations gets easier and more natural with practice. You might practice consent in sexual situations by discussing boundaries and needs before engaging in any sexual activity. Checking in with your partner regularly throughout the sexual interaction. You might say, "Is this okay?" or "Are you comfortable? Do you want to slow down? And do you want to go further?" Noticing and responding to a person's body language. If a person pulls away, stiffens, pushes you away, or in any way demonstrates that they are uncomfortable, stop and check in. Consent does not look like assuming that just because you engaged in sexual activity before, you have consent to engage in sexual activity again. Assuming that a person wants to engage in sexual activity based on how they look or dress. Assuming that a person wants to engage in sexual activity because they are flirting with you. And assuming that someone wants to have sex with you just because you know that they have had sex before, even in a similar situation. Repeatedly asking someone to engage in a sexual activity after they have communicated that they do not want to, even if they eventually agree. This is called coercion. Threatening someone, even as a joke, with any kind of consequence if they don't engage in sexual activity. Consent does not look like maybe, and consent does not look like seeking or accepting consent from someone who is incapacitated by substances, disability, or any other means. It is important to remember that it is not any one person's responsibility to communicate or ask for consent. People of all genders and relationships of all types require ongoing conversations about consent in order to be safe and healthy. The presence of consent prevents environments from becoming harassing. When people behave in ways that target someone on the basis of sex, or in ways that are sexual without the consent of all involved, their behavior is considered sexual harassment. There is a spectrum of behaviors that are considered sexual harassment, including visual sexual harassment, being forced to look at photos, videos, and drawings of a sexual nature, and showing nudes of someone without their consent. Verbal sexual harassment, unwanted comments about bodies, unwanted sexual jokes or conversation, unwanted advances, like asking you out repeatedly. Physical sexual harassment, unwanted touching of breasts, butt, hips, or genital areas, or unwanted kissing. Cybersexual harassment, the publishing or sharing of explicit pictures or videos of another person without their consent, posting sexual rumors about someone else, or sending someone unwanted explicit messages on any digital platform. Sexual assault, rape or forced penetration or the unwanted groping of private body parts for sexual purposes. The key in all of these definitions is that sexual harassment is unwanted. In order to foster an environment that is free from sexual harassment, all must take responsibility for defining and respecting what is unwanted by the community and by individuals. In most educational and professional institutions, any kind of sexual conduct is unwanted. Though many go to work and school eager to meet new people and build friendships, and even find romantic partners, it should never be assumed that anyone in a classroom, office, or any educational or professional setting will welcome sexual comments or jokes, invitations to engage in romantic or sexual encounters, or physical contact with their bodies. In social settings, the expectations can be more complex, and therefore it is much more important that consent be sought in a clear and explicit way. The bottom line is, when sex of any kind occurs without consent, it is sexual assault. The majority of college students have experienced sexual harassment or sexual assault. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, women ages 18 to 24 who are college students are 3 times more likely than women in general population to experience sexual violence. When men ages 18 to 24 are 10 times more likely to experience sexual violence than at any other time in their life. Transgender students are at the highest risk, with 23% of transgender students having experienced sexual violence compared to 18% of female students and 4% of male students. You can learn more about who is impacted through an intersectional lens at RAIN.org, the American Association of University Women, and the American Psychological Association. Those who have experienced sexual harassment and sexual violence are at a significantly increased risk for long-term effects to their physical and mental well-being. The effects on victims can include anxiety, depression, panic attacks, increased substance abuse and use, suicidal ideation, headaches, and sleep disturbances or fatigue. These effects can be short-term, intermittent, or long-term, and can have meaningful impacts on a person's academic, professional, social, and familial outcomes. Communities with a high prevalence of sexual harassment can feel like hostile places to learn, and lives can uphold unjust power structures that disproportionately harm women, members of the LGBTQ community, immigrants, and international students and people of color. In order for college campuses to be places where all students can have an equal opportunity to learn and thrive, it is each student and faculty member's responsibility to develop an awareness of the behaviors that may be harassing, to call out and interrupt these behaviors when they see them, and to practice respecting boundaries and asking for consent every day.